and we would ask Prof. Ansa to give us an opening prayer. Reverend Prof. Ansa, sorry.
Let's share a word of prayer. Father, we bless your holiness and your majesty this afternoon. And we want to thank you for your protection and guidance and how far you have brought us into this AGM. At this time, as we have met at ASRPA to discuss issues affecting us, we pray that your Spirit will lead us, especially because Father, guide him to be able to impart the knowledge that he has unto us, that through our contribution, Father, we shall all learn to the glory and honor of your name. Lead us through the...
Thank you very much, Reverend Prof. Charles Ansa. So, my name is Pauline, and I'm going to moderate the CPD this morning in ASPRA. On our program, we have a welcome report from our leaders. Then we'll have the CPD section, an open forum, and then we'll have, if there are any AOBs to discuss, we discuss it, then we'll close the program. So it's quite a short program if we are going to go by time. So without wasting much time, I'd like to call on the president of ASPRA, Professor Isaac Ayensu, to give us a welcoming address. Please, let's give it up to him.
Thank you very much, Pauline. And I would want to add my voice to the apologies for the late start. And I'm also very grateful for members staying in, both online and in person, waiting and wailing till it's now time for us to start. I would want to welcome all of us to today's session, which is going to be very exciting. Exciting for the reason that our profession is treading on new grounds and new ways of teaching. The curricula is beginning to take effect from other places. And it's important we begin to avail ourselves to the new knowledge. When I spoke to Prof. Wabin, he said, wow, this is going to be a challenge because he himself thinks it's a new area for him. So we're going to share a lot of knowledge in this area. Notwithstanding, the annual report for the group has been posted online. So we would all be privy to it once you go online, including our accounts. For now, we don't want to waste much of our time. For those online, I know you've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And so, without much ado, I would also hand over to Pauline, and then would ask Professor Boabeng to take us through. Now, his session is going to start with a pre-test and a post-test. So, by the end of our session with him, we'll know whether we have gotten something or we are still in the old state where we were. So, let me give it to Pauline, and then we'll invite our speaker to start with us. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the rest. God bless you.
Please, let's give it up for Prof. Ayesu. Mentioned, the report for ASPRA has been part of the group, and you are online. You should have access to them. AOB section. If there are anything you would want to bring it up for discussion, we can all do so. So without wasting much time, we will move straight into the CPD. Today in our CPD, we are going to talk about professionalism as pharmacists. And to have this discussion, we have one of our able leaders who has prepared and is going to take us through today's CPD. He is the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Vice Dean elect, Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the former Professor Kwame Nkrumah.
Thank you very much, Pauline. And colleagues, welcome to this section. Can I have the slides, please? Good. The topic that I am going to deal with is on new insights. I think you please highlight the topic for me, because that's the topic for discussion. So the previous slide. All right, for the benefit of our colleagues who are online. All right, so new on pedagogy and curriculum. That's quite a mouthful. All right, so like Pauline said, for us in academia, this is our professional practice. And I know that, well, I cannot claim to be an expert in this area, so I am just going to facilitate the section. And I'm going to lead us into a discussion on that, on what we can do, all right, to improve on the quality of the work that we do so that it will reflect on our products. So the outline, next slide. Next slide, please. Right. So I'll talk briefly about a background which I am very grateful to Professor Yensu and the team that he put together. They did a very, very, very nice synopsis, which was very helpful. So I'll pick some points in there, all right, and talk about background and what society is expecting from us. Societal expectation of the knowledge base and the competencies of the products, that, what they call it, we are producing. I don't want to take for granted that I know that there are a lot of senior people here. In fact, there are very able people here who could have actually done a better work than me. And I think that it would be an opportunity also to take their thoughts and learn from them. But I also know that, there are also, young guys in there. Some may not. This is a big word, pedagogy. All right. So we want to look at some definitions, and then next slide, please. All right. Next slide. Next slide. Previous slide. All right. I'm just talking to the outline. Okay. The need for this discussion. Okay. Now, the healthcare informatics industry is rapidly evolving. Okay. So that I can control the slides. All right. Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay. So, just about the background, we have seen technological advancement. All right. And then also there is a changing scope in the practice, which require that, the methods that we use in teaching or training, we also refine it so that, our students would have the requisite knowledge, all right, that comes with the expectation of the practice. Okay. So pharmacy educators are required to train and produce practice-ready pharmacists. This is a conversation wherever you pass, all right, that everybody is talking about. Even in our AGM, we had, something on that. So the purpose of this discussion is to update ourselves, all right, or get into a discussion, all right, on current trends in pharmacy education, and then train the requisite pharmaceutical workforce, all right. That is our professional, all right, to meet the needs of industry. And when I say industry, I'm not only talking about the pharmaceutical. When I talk about pharmaceutical industry, it's all encompassing. Whether in every aspect and area of practice, we are supposed to train, all right, the people to provide them with a foundation so they can develop themselves, and then for service, all right, in the industry. Right. So I was just talking about the need. So the need for this discussion, all right. So the healthcare and pharmaceutical industry is rapidly evolving. New things are coming all the time. We are in it's a very dynamic area that we find ourselves. So if we continue to do the things that we are doing the same old way, we will not be able to produce, graduates, all right, that will be able to meet societal and industry needs. So we need to know what is happening and how we can improve, on what is happening. All right. So, and then our products, who are the practitioners, all right, they also have to be equipped and expand their horizon to be relevant. That's very important, to be relevant in meeting industry and societal needs. And this includes strengthening the foundational science knowledge. The pharmacy, is both science and practice, and the foundation, the science foundation, is extremely important. But how do we, train our students in that area, translate into the applied science, and the other soft skills, to be able to be relevant wherever they find themselves in any area of practice. Okay? Right. So practitioners and future workforce should therefore be properly trained, taking into account new competencies that are needed to provide exceptional multidisciplinary services, which is actually required, by our profession. Pharmacy is very diverse, and whichever way it is, we are supposed to provide the training, all right, in whichever discipline, in whichever area. So we have to have the right pedagogical approach. That's a mouthful, hopefully I'll not bite my tongue. All right. So, having set this tone, I think some of the things that I'll be talking about. So let's first talk about some definitions. Pedagogy. No, I'm almost biting my tongue when I say it. But basically, it's method of teaching, all right, an academic subject or theoretical concepts, all right? How we go about it, teaching, so that we'll be able to achieve learning. We'll be able to get that information to our students, all right? So that's pedagogy, method of teaching an academic subject or theoretical concepts. So for students to, for students understanding, to achieve learning. And when we talk about curricula, all right, curricula is more of an adjective, all right, related to a course of study, related to a course of study, including practical experiences, laboratory, etc., etc. So you realize that, as part of GTech requirements, whatever program that we are running, we are supposed to produce the curricula, all right, and the way we will go about in delivering, so that the learning, all right, outcomes expected, would be achieved. Okay, so now, so the work that was given to me by Prof. Yensu and team, and I want to congratulate them. They did a very good job in putting this together. It's new insights on pedagogy. They know we've been doing it, but as I said, we are in a rapidly advanced area, so there may be new methods, all right, which we can incorporate in what we are doing and to be able to do. So new insights on pedagogy and curricula, therefore, refers to insights on methods for effective, and the word is effective, what they call it, teaching, all right, of the various courses and programs, run by the academia. And these include all the professional programs. And in our context, I think all of us are running PharmD program, all right? So how do we go about it? What kind of curricula, should we have? And how should we go about it in training so that, the basic competencies required, are achieved? And then also when it comes to the various professional courses, advanced professional courses, postgraduate programs, etc., I think it also applies. All right. Now, but before I move on, when I was giving this topic, this is what I started reflecting on. We've all been, somebody says that in tree, penina obinye vida. So we've all been students before, and we've all had experiences, on various teaching styles, and methods. And sometimes we meet and we crack jokes, about it. But we've also been impacted by, some of the teachers that we encountered who were really very, very good, and they made significant impact. And I believe that is the reason why some of us, developed the interest. There have been times where, you go to classroom and lecture notes are being dictated, form of pedagogy, all right? Sometimes, there was this complaint that sometimes some of the notes are grandfather notes, not updated, etc., etc. But we have also seen a lot of significant improvement and interesting insights and approaches. Times where there were, and I guess that came with exposure, all right? People started teaching with point presentations, using videos. It's a form of pedagogy, all right, to illustrate and explain the concepts, the theory, the principles, that we want the students to learn, all right? But as I said, we are in a rapidly changing, system or society. So, we should be able to know what they call it, the various new methods. So and then some of us have also been exposed, and again, all of us have been exposed. All right, so we have observed and also experienced different pedagogical approaches. All right, I think all of us have experienced different approaches in teaching. Okay, sometimes we have adapted some of them, and we have actually used them, in our teaching. And I guess that in systems, I'm happy that Professor Jari is here. I'm sure you're going to give me some support, where there are systems for assessment, whether by peers or students. They're able to give us feedback, all right, on the approaches that we are using and where we need to, improve. All right. Okay. Good. So in our development as scholars, in the academia. Okay. Now you also look at curricula, and then you look at the evolution that has taken place, in pharmacy education, all based on what societal needs and what is relevant at any point in time. All right. In the beginning, in our country, we started with certificate program where we needed to train dispensers, and the key word in there is patient safety. So training them, to be able to understand and read prescriptions and to be able to dispense. At that time, that was the issue. So the pedagogical approaches was there to train them into very good dispensers. All right? But then we evolved because we know that the pharmacy price is not all about that, right? And realize that, there is the need for more knowledge and insight, all right? And then, practice, expansion of practice. So certificate to diploma programs, all right? And then to BSc programs. And I'm sure at each point in time, when you get into any of these programs, you look back and say, oh, now we are actually in the real thing. And then further evolution, all right, BFARM. And I was part of the BFARM, moment, where we had BFARM horns. So we graduated with BFARM horns. And yet still, we realized that there were still some gaps, all right, and knowledge evolution. So in other areas, they move on from there to MFARM to be able to meet the changing needs of society, all right. In some places started, MSc, clinical pharmacy, programs, that 1 year intensive program. Still, gaps were identified. There's still more evolution. Some places started MFARM in the UK, for example, PharmD in the US. And now, in spite of, so PharmD basically is what? We believe that PharmD will be able to fill in the gaps and give us the graduate that, we need, to be able to, practice the way we want to see pharmacy practice. Yet still, society is asking for more, all right? That there may be the need, to have, so I'm talking about evolution of curricula, all right? So there may be the need, perhaps to have some programs, and I think I heard the thematic speaker, mentioning some of them. Joint PharmD, MBA, and it's happening in some of the U.S. institutions, and I think we are seeing impact. Joint PharmD, MPH, in some places it's PharmD stroke PhD, PharmD stroke administration, etc., etc. Whatever the program is, there's a need to have the requisite curricula that goes about it, and the pedagogical skill, all right, in delivering that so that the course objective, would be achieved. All right? So, basically, if you look at pharmacy education now, contextualize it, it involves the study of this way. All right? We need a foundation, which is health and pharmaceutical sciences, and then translating to what they call it, patient care. And they were developing the pharmacist as a healthcare, professional. All right? You need that solid science, background. There were some discussions. Some of the science is too much. Let's take some of them away. But then I know that in some of the U.S. schools, they go and then they come back. Because that science foundation also develop the student in a way that makes the person broad-minded and able to take in, other, knowledge areas, and move on. So if you look at the pharmacy education, in the past the focus was on the product. But now, it's competence. So PharmD educational programs all over the world, all right, doctoral pharmacy educational programs are not classified, all right? I mean, the training is like that. It develops you to have the minimum or the basic competency, all right, that makes you fit to practice, all right? So you either have it, all right, and in some places, the pass mark actually is 80%, all right, so that it means that you have the competencies. Perhaps be here thinking about it, all right, okay. So the focus now is on competency-based, patient-centered, and outcomes-driven, all right? So what kind of pedagogical approaches do we have to adapt or use to achieve this objective so that the products that we are training would actually have this, all right? And society, can actually attest to that. So curricula in most schools are based on, if we contextualize it in our system, very strong scientific foundation, then I am all for that. Leave anything out because these, foundation is very, very, very important because pharmacy is both science and practice, all right? So you need a strong, background in chemistry, extremely important, physiology, so what do you call it, health and pharmaceutical sciences, or medical and pharmaceutical sciences. So chemistry, physiology, anatomy, pathology, microbiology, analytical and medicinal chemistry. Then we can come to the pharmaceutical sciences, all right, pharmaceutics, pharmacology, pharmacognosy, biotechnology, immunology, and all of that. Now, this is the foundation that the program sits on. And in many areas, these are the foundational courses, all right? Either first, second year, or first, second, third year, et cetera, et cetera. And as we move on, we begin to bring in the other areas that start molding, all right, the product into a health professional, all right? So we bring in, the areas of the applied sciences, and then the courses on pharmacotherapy. Because it's skill-based, there are also some other social science-related courses. So when I hear people saying that, the pharmacy program is skewed, more to hospital, it's not entirely true. All right? Yeah, it's not entirely true because there are other important, areas which is form part of this thing in developing social sciences, so courses, applied sciences, course pharmacotherapy, and patient care, and which normally is usually system-based, all right, and many institutions are now using, so that is one of the new pedagogical approaches, all right? Some institutions, to be able to achieve the objective of that training a competency, based product, all right, using integrated learning approaches. And some also interprofessional, because the health professional is trained to work in teams, all right? So interprofessional, which means that there are other important soft skills, like communication, all right, emotional intelligence, etc., etc., all right? These are all important subject areas which should form part of the curricula that we are having so that we'll be able to train the students and get, the kind of products, that we are looking for. And then there is also public health. I heard a thematic speaker talking about, public health, not very strong. There are 2 years of public health education, all right, in the pharmacy curricula, at least the one that we have at KNUS, and I'm sure in many other institutions, all right, it's like that. This is where I believe that's part of the reason why, the organizers are asking for this, so that we would really ensure that we have all the needed courses. That's where the curricula comes in, all right? Needed courses that prepares the student, all right, to be that kind of all-round person that society needs. But first and foremost, as a health professional, and to be able to integrate into the health, care team. So public health, social pharmacy, and policy. And in our curricula, we have a whole curriculum on supply chain, and actually lecturers have been trained. Lecturers from all backgrounds have been trained to be able to provide that kind of training, to use the right pedagogical approach, right, to train the students in supply chain management. There are also courses. These are some of the unique courses and the differences between the B Farm and what do you call it, the PharmD, pharmacoeconomics, pharmacoepidemiology as an extension of the public health, and these are also related to, what they call it, social pharmacy and policy issues. All right, and then traditional and alternative medicine. The interesting thing is that because the program is competency-based, there's a lot of practice component, all right, also built into the curricula. So that in all of these, there are also experiential, what they call it, or laboratory. Even if you come to the foundation sciences, there are laboratory components which enables the students, part of the pedagogy, enable the students to really appreciate the relevance of the things that they are learning and how to contribute into their overall training. Perhaps what we have to do is to be able to break it down as part of the pedagogy. Break it down for the students to be able to appreciate that what I'm doing is not abstract, but it has relevance, all right, into the training that I'm being trained, all right, for this thing. There are also ICT, and I'll put it in red because I think it's also one of the areas where we also need to revise or evolve. We're talking about e-pharmacy concept and all of that. This has to be incorporated in our ICT, program. So perhaps that's one of the new areas. Then we all have languages, including sign language. All right? I don't know about the other schools, but in KNUST, all the professional training programs are learning about sign language so that they'll be able to communicate and meet the health needs of all kinds of practitioners, including the deaf. And then communication skills, one of the courses, that are taught. So you realize that the PharmD curricula also, because we are talking about, curricula and then the approach in delivery, the curricula have a strong emphasis on experiential learning with practitioners' involvement. That's also another key component, all right? Much as we have, members in academia, we are also working with our colleagues in industry, all right? Whether in hospital or wherever, to be able to help in molding our students, all right, to get the right kind of, what they call it, knowledge and skill and competency, all right, to be ready or fit for market. Having said this, all right, if what we are doing, there are gaps, that is where we need to look at and think about possible revision to be able to achieve, what they call it, this. So, pedagogical approaches for pharmacotherapy based or should be case-based or problem-based. And here I was expecting either Prof. Combien or Mr. Amaleba to be here, because he has actually done some courses, in that so that he can also add, to the discussion that we are having. These are the things that actually helps people to really have a better appreciation and understanding, all right, when pharmacotherapy is actually taught, right, with critical thinking skills, problem, what they call it, learning how to solve problems, etc., etc. So if we are not doing that, it's something that we need to really start thinking about it, and there are ways of doing that. Now, what are some of the factors that may impact on pedagogy and promotion, of learning or achieving, the outcomes of interest? And here I must confess, I'm confessing to Professor Jare, those days when you were assessing us and you were actually assessing us on the learning environment, some of us were very angry. But it's extremely important. Learning environment can actually be created. It's part of this thing, all right? How to be able to create the atmosphere or the environment that actually promotes learning. It's part of the learning environment. I agree that when it comes to the classroom and the setting and things like that, maybe we can't do anything about it. But that is where management also comes in, because that is important. The way we want to teach, we need to be able to have that kind of environment, to be able to do what we want to do, all right, so that our students can actually learn. Then the mode of teaching or communication of the instruction is very important. Now we have very large classes, and we have to have an innovative way of engaging them so that otherwise, we realize that, if our approach is all about standing before, like some of the old methods that were being used, reading notes or train and things like that, students may be sitting at the back and they may not pay attention, to what is going on. But the learning should be said that, the teaching style should be said that students have to be engaged. And we have to think about, when it comes to the discussion phase, think about what are some of the practical ways we can engage our students and deal with such large numbers, which is actually challenging. And then the mode of assessment is also very, very important. Assessment has to be done in such a way that it helps the students to learn. Sometimes, base programs, all right? The mode of assessment, as I said, you are training critically, all right? You are training them to be able to synthesize or put thoughts together. Very complex, all right? And that is what we are trying to do to help our students to be able to find a way, of dealing with it. So in our assessment, it should also be such that it is not like things that are recalled, and unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens. All right, our assessment is like that, the students actually focus on learning to pass exam, but not developing themselves, to be able for what they call it, for practice. So mostly recall. So I think something that we need to think about, all right, and I'm sure at another forum, we can think about a way of looking at how to formulate questions, all right, for the assessment of our students, which would also promote learning and challenge them. Sometimes when you go to it and you realize that, oh, okay, so you have some deficiencies and gaps, and that also can serve as a motivation for learning, to be able to achieve the competency required. And then research-informed teaching, very, very important. That is a distinction, and again, I remember, and I'm very happy that, I have some of my seniors, very, very seniors, are here. Professor, he sits on UAPC, and then you ask you, what's the difference between all right, the teacher is just interested in what? But then the lecturer uses his or her research to inform teaching. So it's much more impactful, all right, in the area. So that also helps, even when it comes to curricular revision and all of that. Because you're able to know the areas where the gaps are and why, the gaps are also there. So these are very important factors, for pedagogy. All right. And then, now let's talk about, some of the new insights which I chanced to learn. And that was a learning experience for me as well. Prof, thank you very much for the opportunity. All right, so there is one of the acronyms that I use is QD. STQD. Now, these days, and in competency-based, all right, you move away from facilitator-directed, teaching or learning, talking about pedagogy. Right? Active learning, where the student play an active role in it. Because trust me, there is so much information out there. Professor Google, all right, is very, very well informed, and so much information out there that, if, you want students to depend on what you give them, sometimes they may even expose you that you are not even very well informed and things like that. But if you're able to challenge students and help them, guide them, to learn, all right? So, self-study, all right? And then, test or assessment, all right? I've talked about the questions already, and discussions. Now, these are, there is evidence to show that these kind of pedagogical approaches are very, very effective compared to just, standing and teaching. All right? You actually, formulate your teaching such that you are able to achieve, some of these. All right? Self-study, the right assessment tools, all right, the right kind of questions, and then promoting discussion. And often is group discussion. So in many of the courses, what they do is that they give, in many of the professional training programs, they give the curricula to the students. They give them some, test or some assessments, all right? And then they give them some learning resources. So by the time the students come into the program, they already have, some, and then the facilitator or the lecturer then becomes more like a facilitator and guide them to ensure that the learning objectives and the learning outcomes are achieved. In so doing, it becomes a better motivation, for the student to put themselves in the lifelong learning mode, all right, to develop themselves, all right, to help develop themselves, to achieve the competencies required. Okay, so That is the acronym, all right? That promotes learning, all right? The question, the nature, and the type of questions, I've talked about it, already. And then discussions. And these are some strategies that are also very much used in adult learning, and it's been shown to be very, very effective, especially dealing with large numbers like that. So we can put them in groups, have the group discussion before they come to the class. You facilitate, and later on probably can give them group assignments, etc. And that even also helps, enhances other skills, like writing skills, presentation skills, which is all part of the training, that we are training. Other methods, co-learning or collaborative learning strategies, part of the, pedagogy. These are all, students directed or students led, active learning, facilities or guides, all right, in doing that. I'm not saying that in so doing, the lecturer will not be doing his work. It's part of your work. Not be doing his work as well, providing instruction, in teaching. All right, it's all part of doing it, and doing it in such a way that, the competencies required, are achieved. Such that if you are assessed, all right, you are confident that, you'll be able to, make the mark, whether by students or by peers or by whatever. Okay. Now, then we also have team-based learning. Very important for professional students, especially health professional students, because you are learning to work with teams, work with, those are some of the new pedagogy dimensions in the Farm D program and other professional, programs, the specialist, programs, etc., etc., all right? You learn to work in teams, work with your own colleagues, all right? And then work with other, members of the healthcare team, all right? One of the methods of interprofessional education, and then we also have problem-based learning strategies. We have talked about that, and I wish our colleagues were here because there's a whole module, on that. And I think maybe at the right time we should also, that would be a way, right? Okay. And then we have community-based projects, all right? Putting the people in community-based projects. Very interesting. I chanced on students from college, not university students, from Howard College in the U.S. And as part of the curricula, they were supposed to have a travel abroad experience and to travel in an area, where there is a problem with environmental degradation, all right? So they learn at first hand, what the issues are, all right? Discuss, have interactions with members of the community, about the issues and the problems and possible solutions. And then they put together, their thoughts, and they write a report on it, all right? This is a fantastic, learning. And even me, I was able to learn so much from these undergraduate, students, and I think these are some of the, the new, insights, all right? Good. Okay. It's unfortunate that, this cannot be seen. But there's something called SPICES. It's a model, all right? It's a model, one of the pedagogical methods, all right, of training, all right, health professional students, all right, pharmacy, nursing, etc., etc. And please get to know this acronym, because you will find that, I have a question, on that. SPICES. And I like it because SPICES, something to spice, your teaching methods or your teaching, approaches. SPICES. So the S is student-centered. That's very important. All right? Universities are asked to run student-centered programs. All right? Pharmacists are trained as what? Patient-oriented. All right? The people who are going to get your end service. We are training the students. So student-centered, what we can do to help these raw materials, refine them and develop them, to get the kind of competencies, that are, required. All right? So the S stands for student-centered learning, as against the traditional one, which is teacher-centered training, all right, or teaching. And don't get me wrong, all right, it's important to have a fine balance, but to tilt more, all right, to be able to promote active learning, tilt more towards what they call it, the spices. All right? You need to really blend, but tilt more towards the spices. So you see that some equilibrium should be achieved, but it should be tilted towards more. And then P of the spices is problem-based learning. Information, what they call it, based learning. Of course, you can give students reference sources or lead them and all of that, but if you're able to formulate challenges or problems, all right, and then you guide them how to solve it and things like that, they also learn very well. And then we have I, which is integrated curricula, and we have tried to do this in KNUST. We have not been too successful, but we are still working towards it. What we have done is that we have actually aligned, the courses, all right, especially when it comes to the systems, so that, we are dealing with the cardiovascular system, all right, we are dealing with medicines, we learn the chemistry, we learn the pharmacology, pharmacotherapy, etc., etc. But integrated learning is such that, all the, the resource persons who are facilitating are able to work, all right, in an integrated manner, okay, so that it makes it easier for the students to finally appreciate. Otherwise, the student will just have to put the pieces together to be able to get, All right, so that is also one strategy, integrated learning or curricula. And then we have, community focus, all right, programs. And then we have, electives, with a core or breaking the programs down. Some of the programs are must-do programs. Others are elective programs, all right? And some of the electives we may say that at least the kind of program that the course that we're running, all right, be able to have some electives so that it helps refine them to be the all-round kind of person. Because the PharmD is, all right, trains you to be a health professional, but after that, you want to go to industry. So you should be able to provide elective for industry. You should be able to provide elective for the other important areas, all right? Elective for research, etc., etc., plus the core area, so that at least the foundation, all right, is right, and then, somebody can actually move on. So that is elective with core. And then S, spices. S is systematic curricula. That's very important, systematic curricula. So I guess we want to look at this and look at what we are doing, so that when it comes to review, how we can also review, to incorporate some of these new areas and some of these new insights, all right, to so that we will be able to produce the kind of products that society is asking, for. Now, on the other side, we have, students as against teacher, problem against information, integrated curricula as against discipline-based, curricula, pharmaceutical chemistry, pharmacotherapy, but integrating, and then, community focus, hospital focus. Yes, we are working on patients, but we should also have the mindset of ambulatory care and public, private prevention ideas, public health, etc., etc. Okay? And then we also have elective as against uniform or standardized, systematic as against apprenticeship, approach. So what I'm saying is that some of the things on the right is still important, it's still needful, but we should tilt towards more. And there is evidence to show, all right, that if we do the blending, and particularly we go towards left, the students are actually, and the students will testify that they actually came in contact with this professor. Wow, Professor Ansa, and the way he's able to break down the things and work with others, in training us to be able to get the things. All right? So some of these testimonies, So that's one of the things. And then active learning and impact on trainees. Active learning, active learning, active learning. Moving away from passive learning, didactic, all right, to active learning. Students' involvement. Active learners are motivated by information that is perceived to be relevant. When you go out, you really see these things very, very. Sometimes when you give out the curricula to the students and the things that they are learning and the things that anybody there, and that speaks to you. You probably have to find the way you are going about it. So active learning, all right, active learners are motivated by information. So that in our pedagogy, all right, and also the development of a curricula, the kind of information perceived to be relevant. Information that builds on previous experiences. So in such a program, all right, we know what we do in the foundational courses, all right, to the others areas, to the professional areas. One feeding systematically, into the other, and achieving the kind of, competency required. All right, active learners, active learning are motivated from that is participatory and actively involving, problem-based. All right, so in other words, strengthening our problem, it strengthens the problem-solving skills, of the students. And every practitioner, student learning to be a professional is very happy, all right, when he's able to encounter an issue and is able to put into practice the kind of thing that they have, learned. Enables them to take responsibility for their own learning. So you realize that nobody will tell them to stay away from lectures. But if the lecture is passive, uninteresting, and things like that, following the old style, all right, then we'll see some of our students, trying to stay away. All right, it involves cycles of action and reflection. That is very, very true. In doing this, I went through it, myself. All right, so reflection, and actions, etc. Cycles of action and reflection. Learning by doing. Okay, learning by doing. All right, relevant exposures. So then, so this thing that they talked about, so this is how it works. Wow, we use that. Okay, all right. So relevant exposures and experiential training, critical, in the type of program that we are running. And experiential training, we also have to have a curriculum for it. And we should be able to guide our preceptors to be able to give the right kind of experiential exposure, to our students. And then the laboratory components, and sometimes, you realize that sometimes, well, in the past, I am guilty. All right, those days, we will look at grandfather, they go to the lab, grandfather, and they will copy. No, the laboratory component is very, very, very important. And it's for a purpose that it has actually been developed, into the program. So we, as facilitators, should be able to develop the curriculum, all right, and deliver it, all right, or guide those who are delivering in such a way that they will appreciate the lab and how it adds on, to the theories and how it develops them, into the the years ahead. So active learning processes engages and motivates students to learn. The motivated student, this is what I'm speaking from a paper, all right, that I read, on this. The motivated student is known to complete high quality work assigned and can act autonomously. Motivated students attend class regularly. They complete pre-class and post-class assignments. Otherwise, they come to the classroom and another the time then they start, doing the thing, all right? No learning, okay? So, motivated students attend class regularly, complete pre-class and post-class assignment, and that's more likely to succeed in their studies and also apply the life. Because what we are trying to do in our teaching is to impart life transforming knowledge and skill, to our students. All right, give them the foundation to build on to do what they want to do. So, pedagogy for FAMD or any other professional training program, including specialist programs, are increasingly outcome-based. Increasingly outcome-based. And it should be said that, self-assessment, as you're doing it, you are even able to assess yourself, all right? And see, and particularly when you are in class, all right, how you are engaging the students and all of that, the kind of questions that you give them and the outcome you get is also a form of self-assessment. Because if you teach students, and I want to reinforce this, if you teach students and they fail exam, you have to re-examine your pedagogical approach. It's extremely important. All right. So, increasingly in problem solving, critically thinking skills, for service delivery. And then the issue of accreditation. And it's not for nothing that, these are quality assurances, and the boss is here, all right? Perhaps maybe you can add on. Quality assurance, that are needed to check. Okay, I want to run this program. These are the, core subjects. These are the expected outcome. Check. What kind of curriculum do you have, to achieve that? Does it meet the requirements of, And accreditation are in several fronts, all right? We have the GTEC, all right, Tertiary Education Council, all right? And then we have the regulator. And we have to, and it's actually structured in such a way that, the thing that we want to do, all right, they are actually, showing that we follow standards and procedures and practices, all right, to achieve, what they call it. That's the relevance of that. So when we say we should submit our programs for accreditation, it is just to develop it well, all right, so that, the outcome that we want to achieve will be achieved. So accreditation criteria for academic and health regulators have been reviewed, and this is very true, all right? This is very true. Sometimes when they come, everybody is hot, all right? But that is their work, and they have to show that the curricula is well developed, and it has some of all of these important, practical areas, and then the mode of delivery. They actually, check on all of this, the pedagogical approach, all right? So accreditation criteria for academic and healthcare have been reviewed to ensure that one, graduates can acquire and apply, knowledge and skill, be able to analyze complex solutions. What are the kind of programs that we are running? All right, develop lifelong learning skills and be able to learn independently, learn in groups, all right, in teams, all right. The move is to ensure that curricula are designed to take into account societal and industry need. So sometimes some of the questions that are being asked are very legitimate, and working through, people have started, asking, okay, so are the products being trained from KNUST the same as University of Ghana, the same as Central University? We have to come to a point where, all right, because we are actually doing the same thing, training a kind of a health care professional to be able to address or meet societal needs, provide, optimal pharmaceutical services that if it's in the industry, all right, to be able to provide that kind of what they call support, and over there as well, all right, so that the movies ensure curricula are designed to take into account certain industry needs, so modern education theory and research to promote active and deep what they call learning. So pharmacy educators have to redesign, sorry about the spelling error, redesign or review curricula to be delivered by more learner-centered approaches. And I think I've shared, some of the, what they call it, the methods, to achieve that. More learner-centered approaches. And I'm not saying that we should do away completely with the traditional methods. But sometimes there is that tendency. When we hear new thing, we want to throw away the old thing. But we need to have a blend. But there are ways that we can do it to be more effective. And we should always look at the outcomes. It is not for this thing that, before you actually start teaching, all right, you give the course objectives and expected learning, outcome. There's a very good reason for that. All right, so the pedagogical approaches I've talked about, all right, require that we, the educators, adapt, all right, to the role of content deliverer. We adapt from the role of content deliverer or teachers, all right, to that of learning architect and facilitator of learning, all right, so that, we would direct our students, or even if we are teaching our students to ensure that they learn, all right, they learn the things that they have to learn, to be able to prepare them. And as I said, I am just facilitating these discussions. I know that there are a lot of very experienced people in these areas. Some are online, some are here, and I'll be happy that they can contribute to the discussion. So I thank you very much for the audience. I welcome comments. I welcome contributions. And if there are any questions, all right, I am able to, if I am not, I have big people. The high table is very powerful. They'll be able to help me address them. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Wabin. Please, what do we say to Prof. Wabin for leading us? Yes, I have personally learned something this morning, and I hope we've all taken something in our pockets back home. It's either going to change our way of how we are going to assess our students and how we need to see these raw materials that have been put in our care. I was happy to hear the word raw materials, and then I have a lot of raw materials to process. Yes, and it's good we see them as such, so that at the end of the day, hear of stories where an engineer, a professor was traveling, and he got to the airport and he heard that to get off the plane, and he will not even board the plane anymore, because he knew what he has taught the student and what the student is able to put forth. So I believe that this should serve as a lesson for us, that if you should meet a pharmacist or any hospital and you are critically ill to the extent that you yourself can't even decide the dose of a medication that should be appropriate for you at that point, you should trust the pharmacist on duty. You should be able to trust your provide for you the care, and I mean the appropriate therapy for you to rescue your life or even save your relative who might need that care at that particular moment. So in teaching our students, back of our mind, so that at the end of the day, they come out refined, whole professional, be able to give back wherever they find themselves and then enlighten our profession. We have an open forum. But before we go on, I would like to introduce some important personalities we have in our midst, who are also going to help us in the open forum discussion and then give us their treasured okay, so I'll start. We have Professor Isaac Ayensu. Prof. Ayensu is the head of Department of Herbal Medicine at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And then we also have, and the chairman of ASRPA as well. Yeah. We have Dr. Yes. No, he stood up. Okay, Prof, please stand up again so that they can all see you. Yeah. So he is Prof. Isaac Ayensu. All right. We also have Dr. Yvonne. Okay, from Mrs. Yvonne Eseku Yechua. She is director for the Ghana College of Pharmacists. Welcome, Mommy, and thanks for coming with us. We also have Reverend Professor Charles Ansa. He's a former Pro VC of KNUST. Prof. Thanks for being here. Yes. Your teacher. Then my teacher. My teacher's teacher. All right. And we also have in our midst Prof. Kwame Ohene-Boabeng, who led us in the CPD discussion. He's the head of Department of Pharmacy Practice and also the Vice Dean-elect at the Faculty of Pharmacy. When Prof. Yes, Prof, please, you've seen him. Yeah. When Prof. Jari comes in, I would introduce him to us as well. So then we move on to the open forum with the discussion we just had about the pedagogy. Please let's come up with comments, discussions, questions, anything about it that we can learn, so that as we move back, we know how to, the new trend or how different we are going to have our learning or teaching skills. Sorry, please, I left one out. We also have Dr. Paulo Usudonko, the head of Department of Pharmacognosy, University of Ghana. Thank you, Doc. Yeah, so then I'll give you the microphone to start with the open forum for us.
Thank you very much, Pauline, and thank you, Prof, for the interesting presentation. My question will be to both Prof. Boabeng and Chief of ASRPA. Now, we are adopting new technologies and pedagogical skills to educate our students. We had an interesting discussion. Yesterday, we had an interesting discussion on our numbers. The numbers methodological approaches we do have currently, including structures we have now, to ensure that the products we are coming. What is our position as ASPA on the numbers that are going on in our institutions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Usudonko. So,
Thank you very much. I am also very much concerned about that. And I want to add having sites for special training. Because sometimes you go there and you see that the students are getting crowded, in there and may not even help with, very good, exposure, and training. Medical school has been able to do something. Well, let me look at it this way. I mean, I have to look at it in both sides. On one side, I also empathize, with the universities. Because if you see the number of applications, students who are applying into the various programs for pharmacy, you may have several thousand. Normally, when it is not very close to you, you may not see what they call it, several thousands of applications. Pharmacy, like we are discussing, maybe the maximum should be 300. Also look at the psyche, the psychology. I mean, if the student has gotten, not that the person has not qualified, he's gotten a qualification. So that brings down the cut point. So maybe somebody who has had aggregate 7 or 8, who should be able to get into pharmacy. He has to go into biochemistry or biological sciences and all of that. And you see the pressure, on the families. But that's on one side. The other side is what you talked about, and you actually hit, because facilities available. We're talking about practicals, all right? What are the infrastructure, that the schools, even with the best of school, what kind of infrastructure do they have for such large numbers? Of course, we can think about technology, simulation, and all of that. But yet, we still have to put them in smaller groups. And if you put students in groups beyond 10, all right, sometimes it does not even promote, active learning. So that is something that we need to really strongly think about. Medical school has done something. And they come up with a cap, based on the resources that we have, including the and all of that, So we want to, go, what do you call it? Maybe the maximum we can take, in spite of all the pressure and the force and the protocols, the former provisy is here, so he can tell you. Sometimes they run away. So they want to go with maybe 250 or maximum 300. And I think pharmacy is adopted. I was at the college board meeting when this issue came up, because all of us, the toll on us is also something else when it comes to assessment. Because in some of these things that I'm talking about, sometimes you have to give the students cases, not just MCQs. And if you want to do MCQs, you have to do it in such a way that it promotes active learning. And if you're not careful, then the writing skills of the student. So my boss, the provost of the college, led a discussion on that. And I think a position paper was written on how we can actually control, much as we agree that, we should be able to train them. These are manpower. You understand? These are human, what they call a resource. But the problem of the resource available in the numbers. So I think paper was written to the management, right, to do something about the professional programs. So that we would not exceed numbers that will overwhelm, us. I don't know if I spoke for you. These are tricky. Some of these are tricky, Provost said I have spoken to the issue. Some of these things are very, very, hard. So,
just a little bit to add. You see, the numbers, if you are thinking that the numbers will come down, it won't happen. it won't happen because our population is increasing. But what we should push for as ASPRA is to look for facilities and the human resource. If I'm teaching pharmacology, all right, and I have about 4 or 3 lecturers who have MPhil, assistant lecturers, and they are supporting me, it doesn't matter how large the class is. They can do tutorials to support me. And it helps a lot. Or, you can come now. If you are the dean of the School of Pharmacy, you will understand. Because you are in the office in the afternoon, and then a young lady pops in, all right, to say that as soon as she enters the class, she enters your office, she kneels down and says, please, consider me. She has aggregate 12. And she says that you'll be able to pay fees. Would you let her go? It's not easy. The passion of her heart, her desire to read pharmacy. It's not easy to say, leave my office. Paul, it's not easy. But what purpose you are here, what you have to push for is the fact that we improve the resources that are available. Our labs are too small. We should be able to look for labs that will be able to take about 100 students, advanced labs, and all that, IT, simulations, and all that. That will facilitate the teaching. If you're able to do that, I think it will help. Rather than to say, bring the numbers down. Yesterday at the debate, I think that those people who say that we should cut down numbers, they won. But I felt that they were too selfish. You are in pharmacy, you are a lecturer, and now you say nobody should come in now. I don't agree with them at all. I don't agree. But that's the situation. Provost, let's push for resources.
Yes. I think my 2 senior colleagues have responded to the question. I just want to add my voice. I'm part of management, so we are trying to get the resources. So we are trying to get more of the TP, government subvention. No, we don't have government subvention. It's only, if you are aware, it's just our compensation. And now it is, if you want to that for, we are also happy, I can talk about KUST, to have one of our own as the chief executive of the university. So we are trying to get the best that we can in terms of resources, staff, and when we get the clearance. Our time, and then maybe before our time, you just interview the prospective applicant. If the department and faculty are okay with the applicants, then you are ready to go. Now you have to get clearance. That is where we are getting from. We are trying to get more from the management. But let me say this, our STR, that is the student, teacher, or lecturer ratio, we are doing fine. We are within range compared to even almost the same as the requirement from GTech. So we are not going beyond it. So I'm talking about KUST. Others, I believe they will be doing fine because with pharmacy, and then especially with the health programs, because the priority in that area is very high. We are doing fine, but we still need room for us to get more clearance and then the resources to get to the stage that we need to get to in terms of teaching and then learning. Thank you. You are the resource person.
Okay, this is cultural, and I see it all the time. Especially, when it comes to colleagues. KOB, Charlie, this one is my son. This is my own son. All right. So those are some of the like I said, if it doesn't happen to you, really, you don't know how it is. But I think, like you said, they are actually doing their best. KNUST. We need to contain and control the numbers. I agree.
Thank you very much, Sinis.
Thank you very much. For those of us online, we would be happy if you're able to put your questions in there for us so that we can address them from here. Thank you very much. And to the point that what is ASPR's position, I think that must be decided by all of us those online and those of us in person. We haven't taken a decision yet, but I think we can all think about it and then come out with something. I have a question, Prof. You were talking about the fact that with this new system, there is the need to go through the basics of science, and then we go on to where there's applicability. There is a contrary view that we should start introducing the practice right through the time of basic applications of these things. So what do you say? Should we let them through the sciences completely before we start the application, or whilst teaching chemistry from first year, we begin to input some applications of chemistry in the practice in the future?
Maybe you have answered the question, but I am actually a supporter of strengthening the science foundation. It's very, very important because it also makes the person very, what they call it, because that actually prepares the person very well, for the challenges ahead. Remember the Manzanetti was talking about the rigor of the training and all of that. But I agree that maybe, and we're doing it, even when we're doing the BFAM program, right? If I'm teaching amino acids, clinical applications, right? Medicinal chemistry, I talk about, and all of that. But medicinal chemistry should be done in an integrated. That one, I think you teach it at the time where they've also started pharmacology therapeutics. So that should be integrated, so that should be integrated. But the foundation sciences are very, very important. I know that in some of the US schools, they say, oh, pharmacognosy, oh, it's not necessary, but they've gone back to it. How can you do pharmacy without natural product science or phytochemistry? So the basic sciences are very, very important.
Thank you very much, seniors. Okay. Comment or question? Comment. Question.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Vice Vadi. Please, I just want to ask, since we have the senior men here, if we take a course like, let's say, pharmaceutical chemistry or take pharmacology, will you encourage only one lecturer to take the course, or you encourage multiple lecturers to take the course? What do you think will be the impact? One lecturer taking a course and having 5 lecturers taking a particular course. Have a better knowledge to the students. And also, my last one, Prof. Prof made mention of the fact that if you teach a crop of students and they haven't performed, it means that you have to look at your pedagogy. Right? Is it true in all cases, or there's a caveat? For instance, let's see, a particular group of lecturers, 5 lecturers, took a particular course for, let's say, FAMD students. When they were in 3rd year, they did well, maybe 2 trails. Now, the same crop of lecturers have taken a particular group of students again. And instead of 2 students failing, you are having over 56 students failing. It is the same method of teaching they have used. What will we say? Are we saying that the method has changed, or maybe the level of understanding has changed? Prof, please help us.
Please, I hope we had his questions. It's 2. Prof will take the first one.
Team teaching has a lot of advantages. Let me talk about letting one lecturer teach. It has many disadvantages. Number one is that people can victimize students. All right? We about it. But there could be lecturers who victimize female students. We don't want that to happen. Okay? We don't want that. That's why we don't want to give you full access to the course. And it's in your bosom when you do what you like with the subject. Apart from that, when we are doing team teaching, we take a lot of things into consideration. The topics are many. For instance, if you are teaching physiology, and we know that he's a cardiovascular man from his background, right from undergraduate, the man is a cardiovascular man, okay? Then why would you not give him or her that area of physiology to teach? That's what we do. So we take your background into consideration before we assign you the topic. And I think it helps. You will agree with me that if you are given a new topic altogether, that is not your area, your competence in teaching will never be compared to somebody who has taught the thing over the years. Sometimes if I go to the classroom on particular topics, I don't even need to take my PowerPoint notes. I know what to say because I've done it over 20 years, over 30 years. Okay, so that is why we do teaching. I think that should be encouraged. Sometimes it becomes overwhelming when the teachers are too many anyway. When they are 5, 6, then they still become confused. But 3, 4, I think would help, and I think that should be encouraged. Before I sit down, let me say something. Those days when you are a teacher or you are a lecturer, and you begin to hide things from students, the idea that I'm going to bring this into the examination is gone. And I support Kwame fully when he said that if you are teaching and your students are not passing, then we have to ask yourself. In my master's program abroad, you are going to have a mid-semester or something examination, continuous assessment. And the lecturer gave us 400 MCQs to guide us in our learning process. We were just talking about it. So you had the questions, and you read to a point. You use the questions to guide you to, attempt to answer the questions. You went to the examination, and you have selected 150 out of the 400. Ghana man, I'll score. If you give me the questions, I'll score. So most of us did very well. And then one day I went to the office to have coffee with him, and I asked him, Prof, how come, is that the way you examine here, that you give the questions to the students? So, Charles, don't worry. We have competencies, and we expect outcomes. I would wish, as a lecturer, that everybody gets 100%. Is that okay? I would wish. It's my desire that everybody will get 100%. Is that okay? So sometimes when we are teaching, give the students some questions to reflect on. It's very, very important. When we have finished a topic, why would you not give them, for instance, 20 MCQs to reflect them, to guide them in their study? At a point, stop and give them an essay question to guide them in their studies. It helps a lot. It helps a lot. Let's make sure that they pass. There are outcomes, and there are competencies that you want to achieve. Let's make sure that they achieve them. Last but not the least, that will be my contribution. When you are teaching, it doesn't matter if they are in the first year or second year. Let me tell you, if you are teaching physiology in the first year and you don't give applications in pharmacy, very, very boring. Very boring. So from time to time, you have to expose the student that, you'll come back to this later. But in pharmacy, for instance, we use that or that. And you see how they are excited to listen to you. That's very, very important. So let us go in there with practical examples, even right from the first day as they are first years. Thank you very much. I may come back. There's a lot to talk about. I'll come back.
Thank you very much, Prof. Daniel.
On the issue of multiple teachers, I think if we are not limited by resources, position, or getting staff, the best approach is that Professor Boabin said it. The teaching that we are supposed to do is supposed to be informed by our research. And we do research in an area. So, pharmacology, CNS, the person is a specialist in that area. It's not all pharma, but if you are not having, for instance, the newly established universities, I'm talking about even both public and private, we don't have the luxury to hire more. But one person may be teaching, but it may not be the best. So I think that is and in medicine, they do it. Infections or infectious area or diseases. Somebody is in it, or in the Department of Medicine. And the person cannot say that I'm a guru in all the areas. So that is the ideal situation. We should be driving to that level. And then in terms of teaching and then the outcomes, I think Reverend said it. We should be interested in the competencies that your students have been able to develop. And I'm happy when my students are getting more A's. But I think some of you, how you experience the whole thing, you don't repeat. That is advice. Don't repeat the same thing. It's not good. Really school. Especially with my postgraduate students and then usually with the, let me say, advanced level. I give them the questions, as the Reverend said. Just that it's not the same, as the Reverend said. What if I small? Just that, with the emphasis on the advanced levels, you are dealing with synthesis, application, and evaluation of whatever you have facilitated. So, when you are able to give examples for them to go and try their hands, 400 questions. The lecturer doesn't need to even come to the class again. Because if you're able to ask the various competencies, they will be able to apply it or see it to the lecturer. That is the essence of it. So I believe we are a changed persons. Thank you.
I want to give a practical scenario about teaching students, a sort of lecture teaching students, and that student failing or whatever. All right, and sometimes we tag students as weak students. All right, in the number of years that I've served as a lecturer, I've seen some of these people who have been tagged, and they get opportunity to get into an area where they are exposed to proper, appropriate pedagogical skills. And these guys tend to be one of the finest, So it is very true that if you are training students and they are failing, I think they're speaking to that already. All right, then check the way you are going about it. Perhaps you have not been able to help them to appreciate or understand, all right, the concept that you are teaching. We need to be able to help break it down for them to appreciate it.
Daniel.
Thank you very much. Where we talked about spices, I think with the E, we are looking at electives core. So when students have gone through the electives with core, KNSA is doing that. Professional exams. Then if I'm a student, in that case, whilst going through the electives, I'll still be limited and then focus on what the professional exams will entail. So what is the role of ASRPA in the examination of the student at the professional level, so that if we are part of the examining board, we influence the kind of questions that are asked, so we can give the students options. So right from the start, if you are going to electives, then you know that, okay, I have the core to respond to, but I will have to focus on the electives during the professional exam. So you pay attention to this thing. Instead of looking at the whole, so you have to get into the main criteria, law and ethics, and the clinical aspects. So you are going in one area. What is the role of ASRPA in this? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I will start, and then Prof will come in. So I think your question is in twofold, because in the context of the discussion that we had, when you teach in an area, you have to assess in the area. So you cannot, so if you have the courses developed such that you have core and elective areas, you have to have assessment for the core and elective areas to reflect the learning. The competence, you have competences for the elective, you develop curriculum for that. Same for the core, and you do that. But I think the other context is, I think you are practicalizing it. All right, like you go through a program, all right, and then you go through residency, all right, or internship, and then you come, and then the questions have been set in all the areas. What is the role of ASRPA? is that the question? All right, so maybe I would suggest that it is about time that we don't see ourselves as lecturers and standing outside, all right, and lead the work, for the others. I think it should be integrated, right, of the work, whether it is regulation, all right, because the kind of work that we do, we also research, and information that we get can also help the regulators do what they are doing and do it very well. Regulators also regulate us in our teaching, so that collaboration, should be there. Same with industry, all right, R&D in industry, products coming out, and all of that, all right. Same in the area of policies, and things like that. So perhaps I'll just hand over to ASRPA.
I'm very grateful for this question because I think it's something we may have left for some time. With experiences from herbal medicine, I realized that we needed to get in touch with the industry, we needed to get in touch with authority, the regulators, and all that. And it's been very, very smooth in that area. And I believe the pharmacy area, we could also go that way. We haven't started, but I think we need to get it because it is ASPA people who are setting the questions. All right, so we should have an influence in what kind of questions are set. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Please, we would like to have some of the comments from those online. Okay. Then we move on to take one question whilst we get ready for those online.
Okay, my name is Victor, and my question is based on the importance. And we've talked about these, our teaching method, the content presented to the students, and how this content is presented to them. I want to know, I'm speaking from the perspective of the students. Have we time, that includes the time period of study, the time period of the delivery of a course? Are these all, do we have a mechanism in place to get feedback from the students? Because we want to see the students. Do we have a
I think that's an excellent question. In KNUST, we do, all right? We do tracer studies, and then we also do assessments. And in the assessments, opportunities are given to them, all right? All right, so tracer studies are done to get views from the students. The issue of time, the issue of content, the issue of how packed the thing is, all right? It is actually one of the, you see, we have the quality assurance and planning units. And in fact, there are policies on that, to be able to get that information. Because as I said, the programs has to be student-centered. So we need to really, appreciate the views and the thoughts of the students. Much the same way, the teachers themselves, we are also encouraged, all right, to also listen to us. So we have a tutorial system, right? Maybe listen to our students and our student concerns and our problems. And sometimes when we are considering exams, sometimes it's quite interesting. At the faculty board, some of these issues come up. And we get to know some of the things that the students, for example, we get to know the students think that they are loaded too. They don't have social life. Too much. Pharmacy, too much. And the sense that's why that's so we need to listen to some of these, and when we can that we have discussed learning skills, learning styles, and all of that. Sometimes some of the and that is sometimes some of those things promote the dabbing. I almost killed one student in class. The way I teach and how serious I am. And then I was very busy going. And then I saw the student doing lab work. And to me, when he came to me, I got to understand that he's been given a deadline, to present the report and all of that. But that's not my expense. I have a teacher in secondary school who said, you know, it's me. But popularity at my expense, no one will have issues with you. So I agree. So we need to be sensitive. And that's the way to learn. And we don't have to be of the lecturers. Time of professional exams and the early stages of miss them from school. Them at professional exam. You come in associate, you them a council. That lot has really, we need to keep improving because we have an outcome to achieve and we need to keep our eye, on that. Yes. And there are also standards. I mean, it's not just our local standards. There are international. I didn't talk about it. We need to aim at really, boast that most of the students that have passed through our hands, when they get opportunity to get, they do, in spite of all the limitations, and we need to do more. Yeah.
Something small on what Paul Babin mentioned. I think we should also see, when he came, the first thing he said is he's a facilitator. And that's, I think, how we should also see lecturing, as we are facilitators now. In pedagogy, if you study and realize that if you are a lecturer, you're a facilitator. So it's more of you are sharing experiences, and then the person at the receiving end can also share. So I can be wrong, and the student should be able to come and tell me, based on the new research coming out, this has changed. This was being used for this particular condition, but today it is no longer being used. This was contraindicated, but now it's no longer a contraindication. So you realize that if it happens that way, then we all can learn. And it's a never-ending process. So today, my facilitator is giving me more knowledge, but tomorrow I may be the one presenting more knowledge. And that's why sometimes presentations and all that are also important, such that the students also get the opportunity to bring out what they have researched, and then we'll move on from there. And with, I think, the workload, I don't know if it has helped or it didn't help, because I also feel that the workload helps you to, in a way, multitask and be also okay in the future. I realize a lot of pharmacists are able to excel in every industry they find themselves. And you realize it's coming from a certain heart. In school, you are under so much pressure. 24 hours or 48 hours for lab submission of your lab report. You have to learn for the next day's quiz and all that. If you're able to meet it, then when you come out, probably doing locum in one facility is not enough. You can do locum in one facility in the morning. In the afternoon, the person is somewhere else. And then maybe daytime, the person is a rep. Like, you realize, then, in a way, it helps. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. With that aspect, I don't know if it came to help us or it didn't help us. So maybe we can also discuss that.
Yes, thank you. My question is to the leadership of ASRPA. I know in the universities, when you are appointed as a junior faculty, you are assigned a mentor. And the mentor will guide you through the days, the years that you are driving to your promotion. Is it on the various campuses to also have groups within ASRPA? So if I'm in pharmacognosy, within ASRPA, we have groups when the pharmacognosy groups can meet. So I can meet Paul, I can meet all those in UHAS, the campuses. The pharmacology in UDS and KNUST can also come together. Is it possible for us to facilitate this in order to build mentorship and capacity? So this is your leadership.
Thank you very much. You at UCC. Yes, it started. We started this. So pharmaceutical chemistry from UCC is coming to pharmaceutical chemistry, KNUST, for that mentorship. So we're going to extend it to all the various areas. So it's already started. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the various contributions, questions, and the comments. Now we have this from our colleagues online. Prof. Patrick Martin says there are innovative ways to manage the numbers. Let's not block qualified undergraduate applicants the opportunity for training. I think his comment is about the numbers, as Dr. Usu Donko first asked. And also, he said, let's think through the ways to manage the numbers and create more opportunities for them when they complete the training. And I fully agree with Reverend Professor. Yeah, from same Patrick Martin. And the next one is a question. The FDA talked about as many as 21 applications for clinical trials. How do we intend to leverage on that to practicalize learning and opportunities for research? Yes, so we have our FDA reps here too. So one of our participants but from regulatory, you are from regulation. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. We actually working with FDA. They're actually also helping to develop our capacity in the area of clinical trials pharmacovigilance. Some of us have been trained, and we have inbuilt in our curricula when it comes to pharmacoepidemiology, for example, medication safety, drug development. We have actually incorporated that, in our training. And two FDA PhDs, all right, from my end. One is complete, one is still in the process. So some of the data that they have, we can also look at it. And again, the evidence can actually help us, in what we do. And I think pharmacology also have some, and all of that. So the way to go is collaboration, just like those in hospital, just like those, because I know my friends in chemistry are also working with those in industry, chemistry and ceutics are also working with those in industry. Is there any other question? A comment? Okay, then let me see the opportunity to say this. One of our responsibilities as lecturers is that we are also mentors. In our students, because some of them is probably some other issues that they have, or probably their learning style, and all of that. And I've seen some of them who have really transformed, and they are doing it.
There's another question online or a comment that is saying that I think I know where this is coming from, but some hospitals for experiential training ask for payment from the universities for students using the hospital for training. This must be discussed by the deans. And I must say, it's not all hospitals or training sites that are requesting this from the students. There are some few sites that have put up this, and that's why I said probably I know where this is coming from. But I think it should be direct and then addressed, individualized as it should be. Yeah.
We formed the Dean's Forum at a time when I was a dean. And one of the objectives was this. Number one, we wanted the training in all the pharmacy institutions to be harmonized so that it didn't matter if you went to Central or you went to UDS or whatever. The competencies will be the same. That's the first thing. Now, you see, the pharmacy schools are too many now. And to get better training for your people, there's a tendency for you to induce the preceptors so that they will look after your students well. I think this must be stopped. So, as we are going back, let's tell our deans to meet and then see how they can contact those preceptors and see how, if you have to normalize it, then you normalize it for everybody. And if there should be a schedule of students meeting the preceptors, then we also have to arrange that so that everything becomes uniform rather than, today you go here, it's different. Tomorrow you go here, the preceptors say they are not looking after you because, it's not good enough. It's not good. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
So I have two comments. One counts to all of us, and the second would be my question. I think health, our mental health as lecturers is something we are going to have to take seriously. I think the past 2 years since COVID started, the back-to-back teaching we've been doing, let's have some downtimes also. If we are coming to Tamale, let's come and then let's chill small, dance to some Minis music, something like that. But I think our mental health ought to be prioritized. That we are not only focusing on our core job of just teaching, and every time that's all we are doing, our mental health suffers. Two, I think that the extracurricular activities our students are engaging in going down by the day because of the stresses they are put through. What practical steps can we take as facilitators, as promote our students to some extracurricular activities as well, so that it is not just reading and passing pharmacy they walk out of our universities with, but they also acquire soft skills that may not be just pharmacy based. What practical steps can we adopt? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. Yesterday, when Samini came, in fact, I was poised for Samini. We left here after 12 a.m. and also I was telling Prof this morning. Now you notice the dancing styles of pharmacists. Then someone standing close by was like, pharmacist. All you know is jumping. You don't know even how to dance. Common dancing moves. So it's part of it. Sometimes some of these things, as students, we need to give them some space to do some of these things. You believe it helps them, their emotional abilities, to be able to even get back to the academics and have the freedom to learn and even exercise. It's all part of it. But you see, you come out 6 years from school and some don't even have some don't even have friends. They don't even know their roommates. They don't make links from other colleges, other departments. It's only their classmates in pharmacy they know. And we end up marrying our pharmacy our senior lecturers. Yes. Yes, but I believe, yes, I'm an example. Yeah. Yes, so, yes, please.
All right. Thank you very much. This is very important, and I think we need to take this up, because some of them are really very good leaders. Some are very good politicians, but because of the way they are not able to get involved. One of my classmates, one of the best secretaries that now is a professor, significantly, but he's a professor. He's a professor in the US, So I agree that some are very good footballers, but they don't have time. Some are very good in sports. Some are DJs. So it's something that, for me, if you ask me, I went through the same thing like you. So Paul says, I think I could have learned how to dance Adwa, but I don't know how to do it. So Pauline is right.
In giving my closing remarks, I would want to say that all the issues that have been raised, we have taken them into consideration. So the executive body would meet and then we'll be bringing out some of these issues, especially the mentorship, the extracurricular activities. All these we'll be bringing them back to you. The CPD that we've had here will not be the end. We are going to continue every quarter. So we'll be bringing the CPDs to all of us. So be ready to partake. We have very interesting topics lined up for the rest of the year. So we'd want you to be coming to our meetings in person and then online, virtual as well. On that note, we want to say a big thank you. Let me give it to the MC to help us go through this.
So we'll call on Abna to help us with the vote of thanks.
Oh, all too soon, we've come to the end of this wonderful discussion. I think we can go on and on, but we definitely have to close. So we thank God for giving us this opportunity. Even through the rains yesterday night and this morning, now we've been able to have our discussion. We'd like to thank our facilitator, Prof. Wabe, for being here with us and for taking time to prepare so well, such that we've also learned something today. And then to the leadership of ASRPA for putting everything together. We want to say thank you. We'd like to thank all the big men who were here, Reverend Prof. Ansa, and then our Provost of KNUST, Prof. Jare, and then Dr. Paul Donko. And then all the teams, we thank you all for coming. And for every one of you, those who joined online, those who are in here in person, we want to say thank you. Our numbers are small, so we thank everybody for coming. At least, if I can't imagine if Prof. Babin came and then met nobody here, how it would have felt. So for coming, we would like to say thank you. And for being online, we want to say thank you for joining. And we pray that future discussions will even be more beneficial. And then we'll continue to do all that we can do to help the profession and our nation at large. Thank you all very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Abna. Hey. Abna, you see, as part of the extracurricular things Dr. Usudonko was talking about, she looks more beautiful now. So we'll call for Reverend Professor to give us the last blessings so that we leave here.
Let us pray. Father, we want to thank you. You are the Alpha and the Omega, and we began with you. And by your grace and mercies, we have come to the end successfully. We want to thank you. And we thank you for all the things that we've learned. It's our prayer that we'll be able to take them on board so that it improves our teaching to the glory and honor of your name. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Bless you.
Please, let's all come around for a group picture.